Hello, writers. Welcome to episode number 54 of How Do You Write? I'm Rachael Herron, and I'm so glad you're here. This is going to be a quick introduction as I am doing it in my bedroom with bad light, and I haven't brushed my hair, getting ready to go camping, even though I already have a sunburn that I acquired yesterday while whale watching. So I have been having a terrible time, as you could tell. Obviously, I have been having so much fun. I haven't been getting enough of my own writing done, so that has been tricky. And actually, after camping is done this weekend, I'm actually really looking forward just to sinking back into my work and talking to you about that. But real quickly, I wanted to say that the show is great. Alisha Rai is a delight to talk to, and she made me laugh and laugh. You're going to love that. A couple of thank yous to new Patreon supporters. We have Patty Sunberg edited her pledge. Thanks, Patty. And Leanne Prain. Thanks, Leanne. That's awesome. Leslie Buck, you knocked me out. So thank you with all my heart. And one of my readers, Christian, hi Christian, reminded me, oh, it wasn't Christian, it was somebody else, but somebody else equally as awesome, reminded me to mention that my Patreon essays that I write are not about writing. They are about creativity. This podcast is about writing, and the weekly email that I send out is about writing, specific to us as writers. But I'm reminded that other people listen to this podcast as well, other creative people who do other creative endeavors. So you are not forgotten in the Patreon essays. It's just about creativity and how we live as creative people. So if you haven't checked that out, you might like to, patreon.com/Rachel. No big deal if you don't. So with that, I think let's just jump right into the interview and enjoy. I hope you get some great writing done this week, and I can't wait to talk to you next week. Okay, bye. Well, I could not be more pleased today to welcome Alisha Rai to the show. Hi, Alisha.
Hi there.
Hi, let me give a little introduction for those who might not know you, but I know many will who listen to the show. Alisha Rai writes hot and emotionally complex contemporary romance novels and is frequently sought as a speaker on topics such as love in the digital age, sex positivity, and inclusive representation in romance and media. She is the first author to have an indie published book appear on Washington Post's annual Best Books list, which is super cool. I didn't know that.
Pretty
Her
cool.
books have also won the RT Reviewer's Choice Award and have received critical attention and rave reviews from sources such as Library Journal, USA Today, BookRiot, Washington Post, NPR, and Smart Bitches Trashy Books. Alisha spends most of her time traveling, reading, dreaming up sexy heroes and heroines, and tweeting. So, welcome. I'm such a big fan. It's just such a pleasure to have you on here.
Oh, I'm such a big fan of you.
Well, what I love about your work is that it's super smart and super sexy at the same time, and neither of those two things ever battle each other. It's just smart and sexy all the way through.
Thank you.
So
Best compliment.
it's awesome. It's awesome. I love reading you. So this show is about process, though, and I'd love to talk to you about your process. You are prolific. You get a lot done. You
I
have
don't feel like I'm prolific.
you don't. You have at least what, 3 series, 4 series?
I do. Yeah, I have a few series.
Not prolific at all. No.
Well, it's a little exhausting. But yeah.
Well,
I
tell
feel
us.
seriously like torn for me, and I feel like I know like prolific authors, they're not. It's not easy for them, but it just feels like
Well,
I'm like I'm not prolific. It's like every book's a struggle. Yeah,
well,
I
and it
get it.
seems like in our world too, things are always heating up, and there are people I know who write a book a month. So
Mhm.
I'm like, well, I'm not prolific at all then.
No,
Just
yeah, no.
twiddling my thumbs.
Our genre skews, I think, what but yeah,
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 romance is a little bit crazy. Well, tell us
yeah.
about your process. Where and how do you write? How do you get the job done?
I usually, I used to think like, oh, like I'm a morning writer, like that's when I'm freshest, and that's the best time to write, and then you feel like you've gotten everything done, and then I would try, like, especially if I was under deadline, I would start writing, and then it's like noon would come around, and I just beat myself up because I was like, well, I didn't meet my goal, like, I'm a terrible writer and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So all like after I think like a couple months ago, finally I was like, you know what? You're just gonna be an afternoon writer. And so now I'm just an afternoon writer. And then if it gets to like 5 or 6 and I still haven't met my goal, like then I'm like, okay, now you got to buckle down. But I'm like, now it gets to like noon or 1 and I haven't started writing. I'm still like, it's okay. You're an afternoon writer. You're gonna work in the afternoon. And generally, like, I work in the afternoon and I work pretty well in the afternoon, I think. And, it hasn't affected my quality or anything like that. But I think it definitely made it less of a, like I was mean to myself because I couldn't do it in the morning because I thought I should. So I think like pick the time where you're going to be like the least cruel to yourself if you don't manage it, like, because it's so hard because it like just gets in your brain. It's like,
Absolutely.
If like, oh, well, it's noon now, half my day is gone. I didn't write anything. Now I'm screwed. But you don't have to be screwed. You can just say, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to start writing at 1 and then I have the whole afternoon to write. And I think that makes it a little bit, cool, nicer to yourself. And I definitely like, I don't work under the gun of panic now because I'm like, well, the day's slipping away from me, So like now I work best. I think usually like in the afternoon. I have to leave my house. I can't stay in my house.
So where do you go?
Most coffee shops. Like I do like a tour of coffee shops. I've tried working in libraries, but I tend to get like hungry or thirsty, and then I'm like useless. So like that doesn't work for me. But yeah, like coffee shops, or I'll go to like fun places sometimes. Like I live in DC normally, so I go to like a museum and write.
I like to do that with my girlfriends. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really nice.
And the coffee's always super good, and the snacks are delicious.
And I mean, when you live in a place like DC where all the museums are free, they usually have great cafes inside of each one. The African American History Museum, you can't really get into yet easily, but like if you could go there, their cafe is like just soul food, so it's like a great place to.
My gosh.
I could go there. I cannot wait till I can like go there regularly, so I can actually take advantage of that. Or like if I sometimes I go to California. If I'm in California, I go to the beach, and like the water kind of calms me, and it's you don't need Wi-Fi and everything.
You just sit at the. I would be so worried about dropping my computer in the sand.
No, I sit in the pier, so I sit on the pier like on a bed, so there's no sand and there's just like the water around me, and I try to go to like calmer beaches so they're not like crazy with kids and surfers and
distractions and hot bodies.
Yeah, like beautiful men walking around. I'm like, oh, who's that? Like,
very difficult.
And I'm like, how do I drop my laptop in the thing? I'm like, right on it.
I need someone to help me.
I know, like, I need your help. You. No, not you. You.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that idea though about writing out. I never write out in nature, but I always think about it. I see spots, I see a bench. I'm like, that would be a perfect place to hike to. I think I want to get one of those Alpha Smarts someday. So that I can just throw it in a backpack or something and not care.
I got my iPad Pro for that reason, and it works pretty well. So like, it's small and it's portable, and I can't really surf the web too much on it. So like, because it's not really conducive. Like I hate like using the touchscreen and stuff. So
but,
like,
so do you have a portable keyboard that comes with it then?
Mm-hmm.
Or?
Yeah. I got the Apple keyboard, and I got the iPad Pro, and then I got the little pencil, so I can write on it too to take notes.
Oh.
It's like changed my life. So I just drop that into my purse. Like I have many purses. I have too many purses, large enough to fit, all my iPad Pro, if not my computers, and then I can take that with me. And it's changed my life a little bit. It's great.
Oh, I might try that. Ooh.
Yeah. It's
what
nice.
program do you use? Yeah, I know.
But it's if you can afford it, it's a great investment. I think. I use for the iPad Pro, I'll use GoodNotes. For taking notes. Mm-hmm. It's like great note taking system, and you can like copy paste the notes that you've taken on there. Like you can copy paste your own handwriting, and you can type in it. Yeah, it's amazing. It's a really cool app. Otherwise, I have like Scrivener on there. Okay. I tend to use Scrivener usually on my big computer and on my iPad because they sync. It syncs together pretty well. Yeah. And I can close the folder, so I can't. If I don't want to go back, I don't, like you can write like each chapter in a folder, so I can kind of close it and be like, that folder is done, and you're not going to touch it for a little bit.
That helps me so much. Yeah. Just knowing that, like opening a Word document when you're in revisions and seeing all of the words, it stresses me out even just thinking about it.
It stresses me out so much. I can't. So I hate it because like when you do like copy edits and stuff, they send it to you in Word, and I'm like, why can't I import this to like the program of my choice?
I
This
have
is
almost
freaking out.
I've almost asked that so many times, and then I think about it, and whatever. But it would be so nice if we could just put it back in Scrivener to do that, because I'm one of those people, I like to tidy things, and I think
Yeah.
Scrivener is a form of tidying things. I'm sitting at a roll top desk, like, and I stick my gum there and my hair bands there, and that's like Scrivener.
And you can, yeah, close the folders. You can move them around if you want.
Yes.
Like when I'm like big enough to be a diva, that's going to be my only demand. It's like I'm gonna
Yes, exactly. I will do my copy edits in Scrivener. In fact,
in whatever program I want.
yes, exactly. Whatever you're using then. That's awesome.
Yeah.
How do you refill the creative well when you're running dry?
Oh gosh. Right now it's been pretty hard. I try to read, especially if I finish a book, I try to read something that's maybe not in my genre because that helps me turn like my editor brain off because like it's too active if I'm also reading like a contemporary, sexy book or something like that. So I'll pick up a book that's, a little bit different or, and that, comes from like trusted sources that I know I'll like it. I'll reread a lot. I reread a ton,
Do you?
of my, yeah.
I never do. I always want to.
Oh, I just love rereading. Like that is when I was younger, I remember every time I'd go to like clean out my bookshelves, it would take like 9 hours because I'd just be like, oh, and I'd sit there and I'd get lost in rereads and it would never actually get cleaned out. So I just leave them now. I let them collect up.
What's your favorite book to reread?
I think the ones that remind me of like being like a new romance reader. So I reread a lot of like my Amanda Quick and my Lisa Kleypasses, like the ones that I first started when I was like really young or a teenager or whatever. I'm like, oh, this takes me back to like high school or, like sitting on my bed. And those are the books that I like traded back and forth with my friends. So, they're like super dog-eared. And so like those are the ones where I'm like, oh, like I remember this. So I think the nostalgia level is almost as high as the actual book. I mean, the actual book is good too, but like part of it is
it's like comfort food, but for the brain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I remember this. Like I remember how I was and how I felt, and it's like when you watch a movie that you remember.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been doing a lot of that. It's been hard lately. I think everybody's been kind of in a funk. Like the world's kind of
Ending.
Wackadoodle. Yeah, that's another word for it. So I think like I've been watching a lot of TV shows that sort of take me out of the world and make me feel like we're in a better world. So
Yeah,
like
that helps.
I've been watching, yeah, it helps a lot. So I've been watching like Blackish or Fresh Off the Boat or Crazy Ex-Girlfriend is like my favorite show of all time now. I love that show so much. And because it is like I want shows where people like win and like the world seems a little bit brighter.
Yes.
So that's really what I've been like. Sometimes I feel like I'm watching like too much TV or movies lately, but I think part of it is like I just need to, and I think that's why people read our books too.
Yes.
Need to get away from this and be in a world where, things work out.
And don't you think that's one of the best emails to get is when you get those emails? That
So,
makes me feel like everything is worth it.
Yeah. No, every drop blood that I put into these books, every minute of it is like totally worth it. The minute I get that email or that DM, like, thank you for writing this, or, like that makes my week or my month. And that actually, if anything refills my well, it's that. It's just knowing like, oh, there's a purpose for everything we're doing. Like people are actually getting what I get out of, like it's refilling someone else as well. So
I can't believe no one's ever said that. That's so awesome and true.
Yeah.
That's what our jobs are.
I think so.
And also to rip them apart a little bit. But
rip them up a little bit.
And then put it back together.
Let's put it back together. Tear them up a little.
What is
feel?
What is the absolute best or worst writing advice you've ever been given?
So I think worst, and it's one that I kind of agree with too, is so I self-edit pretty heavily, like as I write.
You go? Yeah.
Yeah. And everyone was always like, don't self-edit, just write the first draft, and then you can go back and fix it. And I'm like, okay, like that seems like a great idea in theory, but for me, it just doesn't work. So like this last book, I was like, well, I'm going to do that. I'm just going to write the draft clean through, wrote it clean through. Like, I was like, yep, great. Wrote it. And then I got to the end and I went back and I looked and I was like, this is terrible. Like this whole thing, like the whole book was kind of like a mess. I just had too much going on. Like there were too many threads. Like I had like side stories that never ended, and I had
God,
like,
yeah.
like there were like characters that changed their names like four ways, four different times. So I was like, well, this is a mess. Like this is, and so it ended up being a ton more work to clean it up than it would have been for me to just edit it as I went. And I think for me, especially like those first 2 or 3 chapters, those are like vital for me. If I don't get those right, I cannot write the rest of the book. Like I have to spend a lot of time on like the first, maybe even like quarter of the book in order for the rest of the book to like just, pound out. And I can't do that. I spend like, I don't even know how long, but I'll spend a couple months like just on the first beginning part of the book and then like zoom through the end. Yeah, it's really weird. But I think in my brain, it's just like, unless you have a foundation, you can't.
Yeah.
Like you can't build anything on it. So there's like that first portion where I'm like, okay, I have to get like this part right. And if I can get that part right, and that's what happened in the last book. Like I ended up at the end, in the last final draft, I had an entirely new 2 chapters in the beginning that I didn't have before.
Oh, wow.
First, like I had to rewrite like the whole beginning portion and the whole end portion, and then like add 2 chapters in the middle. Like it was way too much work. And so this time now, like
your process.
I know my process. So I'm like, okay, this time I'm not going to fight it. I'm just going to, and it does get to a point where you're like, well, now you're just changing words around, like move on. But, and that like, I think I'm at the point now where I can recognize where I'm like, now you're just fiddling to like procrastinate. So, you don't want to go to chapter 6. So you're just like, is this the right, like, let me thesaurus this word.
I'm sure there's one that could be a little bit better.
There's a slight go of like whatever in this one paragraph. Let me fix that. Like, okay, fine. Then I'm like just tootling around. But there's definitely something to be said about like my investing my time, on the front end in order to not have to redo the entire book on the back end.
I love that you say that too, because there's so many people, and I'm one of them included, that preach, you must write the first draft and, as fast as you can and then go back and fix it. But my codicil to that, the thing I always add is like, unless there's a 2-part sentence, unless you revise as you go and you're finishing books.
Yeah.
But because there's so many beginners who revise as they go and then never finish a book because they can't.
Oh, I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
And that was my beginning for a long time. Like that was how I was in the beginning, where I was like, I have so many half-finished drafts or like drafts that I petered out at the 3rd chapter because I just got tired of like fiddling with it. But yeah, like it is definitely, I think when you have like, because I usually have the whole book sort of, plotted out in some fashion, like either, I have scenes like very vividly in my head or, and I always have it written out. But certain times, like I think it just goes against like how I work to not have like the first part for me is so important to like sort of lay out the different arcs and, do all the heavy lifting there and then have it sort of go where it will. So I learned my lesson this time. I will not be powering through and just writing it.
It's always good to like experiment,
It is. But like, I was like, this experiment is done. I was going nuts. Like it was like the worst revision I think I've ever had in my life, where I was like, I was like, I can't keep all this, like, I can't keep all the threads straight in my head. Why does her name change 4 times? Like, I forgot what characters, like, I was writing about. Like, it did not work for me.
Which actually sounds really much like my every time process.
Oh, really?
It's not that fun. Like, a shitty first draft could be a truly shitty first draft. Like, I can look at a page and go, there's nothing on this page that I'm proud of. But
see, I feel like even if, like, I have shitty chapters normally, like, I feel like at least a quarter of my book is solid, like, I'm like, well, the foundation's strong. I just want to make it pretty now. Like, so it's, I think for me, that's just the way I think I'm going to stick to my tried and true method of like sweating over the first 10 chapters and then being like, oh, it's good, fine, whatever.
Zoom
and then the rest sort of unfolds it by itself almost sometimes organically. And like, but God, yeah, it's nice. But it has to be like, it's not every book, but like some books where you like hit it right. Like if I do all the heavy lifting on the front end, it does feel like a much smoother, like, oh, okay. And then I'm like excited about the story because I know where I'm going. Like, I'm not sitting there going like, oh, okay, what did I do in this I don't want to go back and reread it because then I'll sit there and fix it. So it was just much easier. And different things work for different people. Like,
Yep. Yep.
I know Nora Roberts is like, you know, like you can't fix words that you don't have, right? Or whatever it is. And sometimes that's true. Like sometimes I'll just be like, okay, now you just have to write something because you're just staring at a blank page. And I'll like write or die. I'll put it on and I'll sit there.
Write or die.
Love write or die.
I have dedicated books to write or die. I really have, because like first I hate first drafts so much that I wouldn't get them done without write or die. I swear.
And I've tried sometimes just to use like my phone timer, and it doesn't work.
It's not the same thing. It really isn't. Listeners, if you don't know what it is, it's called Write or Die, and basically it forces you to write. Go look it up. It's amazing.
Or it like punishes you.
Or it punishes you.
And the thing is, it doesn't even like I'll turn my volume off. Like I don't even hear.
It's just like, the red screen.
It's the red screen behind where I'm like, okay, fine, I have to keep writing. Or like maybe it's like I think I can't go off of it or something like that. I have no idea. It's like it's the most basic idea in the world, and for some reason it really gets me to sit down and write. And then I can pound out like 1,000 words no problem in a half an hour. Like so easy. And like, you know, otherwise I'm sitting there like all day just going like, okay, like what do I do with this sentence? And so I think sometimes you do need your brain to just kind of shut off and be like, okay, just write what's in your head and get it out there, and then you can fix it. Yeah. But then, you know, then I need to like fix it again. So, you know, I think whatever works for you, just finish the book and you'll be fine.
This might be related, and I'm starting to conflate some of my questions here as I'm changing. I'm a year into this podcast, so I'm changing things around a little bit. But what secret writing tip of awesomeness or craft tip or both would you like to share with us?
So the secret writing tip that I have that I think I actually got from your book was to edit out of order, right?
Maybe.
Like to sort of edit like not from front to end.
Oh, so you know what's super funny? I have to interrupt you.
Did you change that tip?
No. You're thinking of my name doppelganger.
Oh, your name doppelganger. I'm sorry.
My name. This is so funny. Rachael Herron.
Your name doppelganger.
And I want to have Rachael Herron on the show. You and I know each other from singing Hamilton at RWA. Yes. But
I'm sorry. I am thinking of your name doppelganger. But yes,
it's hilarious.
From your name doppelganger's book,
which is called 2 to 10K, right? I think so. Yes, 2K to 10K, something like that. Okay, go on with the tip.
I'm sorry. I clearly like don't know anything.
I love it.
So the idea is, you know, you edit sort of out of order. Like you don't, you know, you make a list of your issues and then you go through and like
love that.
Fix them. Which is a great idea. I can't really edit out of order. I have to go consecutively, but I will edit my sex scenes out of order. I'll go through and I'll fix all my sex scenes.
Do you do that
from beginning
first,
to end
before you do your big revision, or do you do that after?
I do my big no, I'll do like I do multiple revisions.
Yeah,
I'll do like one big revision, and I'll fix like everything I didn't get through. And it is a lot easier once I've like, you know, spent a lot of time revising as I go. But then I'll go through and I'll specifically like in one day, like so I won't like forget anything. I'll do it like from morning till night. I'll just pick out every sex scene and I'll edit it as I go. And the reason I do that is like it's like a grueling day because sex scenes are really, really hard to write.
I hate writing them.
They're terrible. They're a pain in the neck to write. So like you have to, but I think what's great about it is you can like carry like imagery over from like the first scene to the last. You can, you know, if there's a particular emotional arc that goes into like, and for, you know, the books I write, like the sex does a lot of heavy lifting. So like, you know, if there's a particular arc, like I can follow it from like their first kiss to their very last page, you know, so I can.
What a great idea.
And I can, it's such a like silly, like, you know, like it's weird that like that's the only thing I'll edit out of order, but I'll edit those like, you know, I'll edit those not out of order.
But you do a pass, like I'll do a setting pass and a description pass because those are the things I never remember to put in. But you do a sex pass.
I do a sex pass, and I'm like, okay, well, like I got to make sure I did a good job on the sex. So, and that is like, you know, part of it is like fixing the choreography and stuff.
Yeah.
But most of it is making sure like the characters are starting and ending where I want them.
Well, and I think that's what I like about your books too is that your sex scenes do the heavy lifting. You never dodge that. There's nothing in there that isn't there for a reason. You know,
right? Yeah, and there shouldn't be. Like,
I agree.
You know, like if you take the sex out of my books, the book should fall apart. Like it should not make much sense.
Yeah.
Someone like one time I my little sister like wanted to read. I have a post-apocalyptic book, and she was like, "Can I read it?" It's called Night Whispers, and it's my only like post-apocalyptic book because I'm hoping post-apoc comes back.
I love post.
And it's got zombies in it. It's fun. But she was like, "Can I read it?" And she was like 12 at the time, I think. So I took a Sharpie and I blacked out like all the sex scenes in it for her.
That must have been so funny to do. Like
it was funny, but also like a pain in the ass. And then like in hindsight, I realized I should have just like modified the digital file to like give it to her. So now we have like one censored version of like Night Whispers in my house. It's really funny.
Awesome.
But when she read it, she was like a pretty precocious reader. You know, she was like 11 or 12. But you know, afterwards I was like, "Did you like it?" She's like, "Yeah, I really liked it." She's like, "Some parts didn't make sense." And in my head, I was like, "Well, that's good." Because I blacked out enormous like parts of the plot. So like, yeah.
Success.
There were things that didn't make sense to you, I guess.
I think that's so cute. My adult sisters and like, I hate it when family read the sex scenes. I still can't even admit to myself that family reads the sex scenes. I don't admit it to myself. Ever,
no, that's not true.
It's not true. It's not true. On really bad days, what other profession do you wish you had if you couldn't be a writer?
I really like dinosaurs, so I would be a paleontologist.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
you're like a 6-year-old boy.
I am almost definitely a 6-year-old boy. No, I think they're really cool, and like I love all the Jurassic Parks. I'm even wearing a dinosaur necklace.
Oh my
if you
God.
can kind of see it. So I think I'd be a paleontologist. I'd like to like study, or an archaeologist, like something that, you know, you can dig around in the dirt. I'm sure it's like way less glamorous than it seems, but it seems pretty glamorous. Right?
Yeah, well, they probably think that romance writing is pretty glamorous though too.
That's true. That's true.
And that's actually not glamorous either.
It's like to like wear a big floppy hat and like go on a dig, or you know, I feel like that would be super exciting.
That's super cool.
That's definitely, like, without a doubt, that is what I would want to do if I wasn't a writer. Without a doubt.
I've never had that answer, so that's awesome. What is the best book? What is the most recent book that you really, really loved?
So I'll preface this by saying we're best friends, so
Absolutely,
you can believe me or not. But but it's gotten like every starred review from every trade issue, you know, publication available. So believe all of them if you're not. But Alyssa Cole's An Extraordinary Union.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
I love it.
So I love every word in it. And like, she's just such a master, you know, storyteller. Like
really
every
is.
word is just like so precisely chosen. She actually has an upcoming series with Avon called Reluctant Royals is the name of the series. And the first book is A Princess in Theory. And it's basically like grown up. I know. It's like grown up Princess Diaries, basically. Like she didn't know she was a princess. And her betrothed comes to find her and like pretends to be a waiter so he can like get close to her, and it is
I would like
amazing.
to purchase it right now.
It's available in March, I believe. I think
Okay.
I think my third book and her first book come out at the same time, so that'll be nice. So if you want to try her for contemporary soon, you'll get to it. And I've read that one and I love it, but I can't really rave about it because it's not really out and I feel bad.
Well, speaking of things, let's rave about you. Well, actually, I left out a question. If you were starting off as a new writer right now, what advice would you give yourself as young Alisha?
I'm just coming off a deadline, so I'm kind of like, don't do it. You know, so it's not a good time.
Bad idea. Become a paleontologist.
Like, become a paleontologist. Don't become a writer. No, I thought about this question and I'm not sure. I think the advice that I give usually to young authors is, you know, trends are great. Like, and you know, there's a difference between tropes and trends. But I think when I think about like the books on my keeper shelf, like they're the ones that either made the trend, like started the trend.
Yeah.
They're the ones that took like kind of something that was tired and old and just told it in an amazing way. Like there's no such thing. Like definitely listen to the market, and when agents and editors tell you like, you know, this is hot, this is not, you know, listen to that. But at the same time, like nothing's really ever out of style. Like it just maybe needs to be like given a little injection of life again. So I think, you know, that's what I tell, like, you know, listen to yourself and your strengths, and you know, don't worry too much about what's hot and what's dying, because
that can keep
those
you
aren't
up at
really
night.
it can keep you up at night, and they're just not absolute rules. Like any author can make me love something,
Yeah.
even if like I've read books that I'm like, I hate this trope so much, and I've read the book and I'm like, that book was amazing. Like that was, like so if you are skilled enough and if you know what you're doing, I think you can make anything. You can make anything hot. Like you can make anything, or you can kill anything in retrospect. But like there's no such thing as like, no, this is dead. It'll never be revived. Especially with like self-publishing now. Like like there's self-publishing, digital publishing. Like it changed the game, I think, for a lot of authors and a lot of what they write. Because a lot of the things that a publisher might tell you is dead was earning six figures. Like some authors six figures in self-publishing and Kindle Unlimited or something like that. So it is like it's too difficult of a game to play. So just sort of write the book that's in your heart. One of my friends, Abri, she's half of Kit Rocha. She likes to say, write the most marketable book in your heart.
Oh, I really like that.
Like, I love it. So like that's what that's like write the book of your heart. Try to make it like spin it as the most marketable way you humanly can. So people will, because marketing is just like dressing something up, right?
Yeah.
Like you can dress anything up, sort of. So yeah, write the most marketable book in your heart.
I thank you for sharing that.
It's good.
It's great.
Yeah.
And now tell us about you. What would you like to plug right now? I know you have a book coming out. It might be out when this show comes out. So I think it'll be maybe out a week later.
July 25th is the date. So this is the book. I just got actually the final copy, so I'm excited about them. It's called Hate to Want You. It's really pretty.
The cover is gorgeous.
Isn't it? It's so pretty. And the second
lottery.
cover, it's just like so easy to touch. I just love it. It's so pretty. So this is coming out July 25th, and then the second book will be out November, and it's got an equally gorgeous cover with an equally gorgeous man. And I'm very sad I didn't get to go to the photo shoot for it. It's so beautiful.
They did a photo shoot and everything?
They did a photo shoot for the second book. They did a photo shoot, and
God
he
bless
is
Avon.
like, oh God, yeah. I was like, and when they sent me the picture of this model, I was like, yeah, him. Like, you don't have to send me anyone else. Like him, he's beautiful, and he's beautiful. Like he was like, Wrong to Need You is the second book. So
great names too.
Yeah, they're really good titles.
Yeah.
I had like a moment of epiphany for the title, so I'm proud of the title.
That's amazing.
I'm terrible at blurbs and like, all that stuff, but titles, I can do titles.
I suck at them. Oh my gosh. So, and where can we find you online?
You can find me at Twitter at Alisha Rai. I'm mostly on Twitter. It's ALISHARAI. You can also find me on Instagram though. I'm starting to love Instagram more and more. So, and I'm not really on Facebook. I'm sorry, because I hate it.
I hate Facebook. I'm there.
I hate Facebook so much.
I hate it. You know what? I'm kind of digging it lately for the groups. The groups seem really useful.
Only thing I usually go on there for is if I drop into a group, but it's just so like WhatsApp makes group chatting so easy now that I'm like, I'd rather not. It just feels so like I go in there and I just get like depressed over one thing or another.
I go in there and I get annoyed, so I close it, and then I realize I've forgotten to do the thing I went in there for, so then I have to go open it again.
And I do that too. I'll start scrolling through the feed and I'm like, why am I scrolling?
Yeah.
I'm just getting mad at everyone. So I feel like on Twitter and Instagram I can curate my feed a little bit better. So like, I'm not like in a rage all the time. So it helps.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show, for giving us your time, for being awesome, for writing great books. Keep it up.
Thank you.
All right. Happy writing to you.
All right. I'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.